Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a potential very large winter storm that could be occurring this upcoming week. So there's a lot of uncertainty with this system. However, regardless that there is uncertainty, with the details of the system, there is decent, actually pretty good certainty that this system will be occurring. It's just, where the heaviest rain will fall, where the heaviest snow will fall. And just to give you a little scope of how big this may be, where it does rain, there could be obviously the severe weather threat further down towards the deep south, which we have to watch for, but also 2 to 3 inches of rain where just plain old rain falls, no real thunderstorm activity. So you could tell how potent this system is. 2 to 3 inches is a lot of water. Now, on the snowy side of this thing could be equally as impressive. Maybe not, 2-3 feet or whatnot, but up to 1.5 feet in some areas. Some models are showing, again, that may be rather aggressive. Where this will fall, that's still the mystery. And yes, this isn't terribly far out. This is going to be occurring really starting off on Wednesday and then going through Wednesday night, Thursday, and going into the Northeast and Southern Canada by Thursday night and into Friday. So it will be a quicker system. If you recall, the last big winter storm we kind of dealt with, it had many stages. I think it started Tuesday and wrapped up late Saturday into Sunday. So that one was extremely, just a painful one as it just dragged on and on. This one will be more of a quick hitter, but no less, I guess, impactful in the sense of those days that will be, I guess, impacted by it on those specific days. The cleanup will be a bit, I guess, quicker or easier. But again, I do want to say that if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I am a weather enthusiast, weather hobbyist. For official weather info, for especially for high stakes weather situations, always refer to the National Weather Service. I'm here just kind of expressing my opinions, and the comment section is for you guys to express your opinions. So please do that. And if you have, obviously, if you do enjoy this, consider liking and subscribing. I say this at the beginning, not at the end, because I always forget. I get too worked up about the weather, simply put. Okay, let's start talking about this. And let me first off show you, sorry about that, I'm going to show you the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map. So this is a map of kind of like, the advisories and warnings. If you have on your phone, you have alerts set up for advisories or winter storm warnings. This is how the National Weather Service looks, and in each state there's offices that declare these, and they're usually declared around 2 to 3 days away from any event. If it's like thunderstorms, then it's really just a few hours ahead because they're less predictable. So basically what I'm trying to tell you with this is that it's pretty quiet for now, which means that this thing is still a bit away, right? Obviously, once they start issuing advisories and warnings for specific areas with the system, either snow or rain or whatever, it's time to take action. Now it's more of like a, this is probably going to be a concerning thing, and I'm just kind of trying to let you know ahead of time. The National Weather Service is most definitely already talking about this in their extended forecast discussions, but not yet any advisories or warnings. So again, if you are, panicking or whatnot, since the number right to panic, even if the system is a day away, if you prepare with the bare essentials, you should be fine. This thing isn't a historic one, but it is a nasty one. So let me start showing you what happens. First off, I'm going to go over a key few details with the system that are different from the other systems that we've had so far this winter. And I guess the main part of why this one is so different is, well, we are rapidly warming up. It is now February the 13th. We're way past this, the winter solstice. We are now racing towards the spring equinox, and we have a lot more moisture to work with. The temperatures are a lot warmer, and what's, I guess, even worse with the situation is that with the setups of the wind direction, the wind flows. Notice we have a series of really almost 2 high pressures, very, very strong. We have a low pressure that's moving in from the Pacific Northwest, right? You can see that thing right there moves in tomorrow and into Tuesday. And what that does, you can see these lines tightening. So these are basically directing where the millibars are showing where the wind is, right? And you can't really probably tell where the wind is flowing because it doesn't really show the direction, but we could figure it out by looking at the high pressure here. We know all high pressures, and there's kind of a weaker one right here, but it's really just more of a, I guess, a single one. All high pressures in the northern hemisphere spin clockwise, so with the clock, and that means the winds, you could see right there along those arrows, are flowing to the north, okay, right? And now with the low pressures across the northern hemisphere, we are all they all flow counterclockwise, so the opposite. And so that means all these squiggly lines wherever they are flowing in the opposite direction. So you can see what I'm trying to get at here. There's going to be a funnel of very, very warm air through the tropics right here, the Gulf of Mexico, where we have a lot of moisture that is very capable of producing heavy rain, heavy precip events. It is streaming to the north. So what that means is not only will it be very warm out ahead of the system, kind of with a typical spring system, right? Out ahead of it is very warm, and then behind it it's very cold, and you get a blast of cold air once that thing passes through. Look, Texas on Tuesday will be very, very mild. It actually will be starting up already on Monday across much of the south. And yeah, so you could see Tuesday, very mild. It will peak in intensity for a lot of locations on Wednesday. You could see 50s, 60s getting all the way into Illinois, Indiana. Again, southern Illinois, especially getting towards those 60s. The south, 70s, 60s, 80s. Warmer air has a lot more water holding abilities. So what that means is that we have this little low pressure that is little at this current time. It's that little system that moves off the Pacific. It does bring a bit of precip for the mountains, Sierra Nevada into Wyoming, Idaho. Nothing extraordinary, but there may be a bit of some slippery travel, or nothing really to aid with the water woes of the West, but definitely something that could actually stir up a bit more problems, as it could bring a bit of wind, and that could obviously spur on fires and not bring enough precip to end any ongoing ones. Notice that we do see this wind flow really just maximize a few days out ahead of the system, and we start seeing a high pressure to the north driving any precip out ahead of it. We have a low pressure bringing that precipitation from the south, and that moisture forming eventually precipitation, and there we have it, a cold front, just an absolute explosion of moisture, right? This thing is as explosive as I'm trying to make it seem, which is why I'm so explosive with my talking today. Notice that what we do have is Wednesday evening. This is what it looks like. You can see the snow's intensifying across Colorado, Wyoming, cities like Boulder, Denver. You're going to be seeing some snow out of this, all the way out into Nebraska. Look what's happening further across the east. We have this low pressure. Not only is it strengthening, but we have two converging air masses, kind of, I guess, squeezing the heck out of this, like a little sponge. And we have winds from the north that are howling, north and east, and then from the south and west. So these things are just perfectly set up for a high precip event. Now notice, this brings very heavy rain into Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, a bit of ice and a bit of snow. But it does start off, because of how warm this temperature is and the air, this starts off as rain. But look, by Thursday, 12 a.m., so here's the time, by the way. Probably should have said that earlier. So this is midnight of Thursday, very early, right? You go to sleep on late Wednesday, and it may just be raining, say, across Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, right? And then look, by Thursday morning, we see a lot of precip develop to the south. We have a very potent ice event. Hopefully it doesn't sit over a single period of area for a long time, which will limit the scope of the ice damage, which I do think it won't be as impactful as with previous systems we've had. But look, that snowy side also grows, and it starts off as a lighter snow, but it quickly, because of how much moisture laden this system is, it turns into very heavy snow. And not only is it heavy in terms of the wetness, it's kind of like the back-breaking snow. They call it the heart attack snow. It is also falling at very intense rates. I mean, you have pretty much thunderstorms are being converted into snow, right? It's extremely, extremely potent for a high amount of snow in a short amount of time. And a lot of these areas will have water standing on on areas that are going to be seeing snow. And those same areas where the water is, they're going to see snow a few hours later. So this is kind of like that rain to snow transition. Now, I do want to emphasize that if you look across, look at that. I mean, this is now Thursday during the day. We have a full-fledged, potentially blizzard across Missouri, Illinois, Iowa. I say blizzard, not because of, I guess the intensity of the system. It's because of the winds in the back here, making the snow howl, drift, and what's not, kind of blowing it sideways. Again, a lot of cities are on the cusp of potentially seeing, a lot of snow versus just some snow. This is just one particular track, the GFS. And that's also, I want to emphasize, there's a lot of things in play, as I mentioned, the warm, moist air from the south, the north, the little system. Not all models agree on this, adding to the complexity of this thing. Notice that across the south, look, once it reaches the Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia area, look what happens with the rain. It goes from a heavy rain event into potentially more of a convective system. Late Thursday, 6 p.m. Technically not, night yet. We see an explosion of these colors, probably some severe weather. To what intensity and what degree, it's still a bit unknown. But do notice that is definitely something we have to watch for. Look at that. A lot of the East Coast, you're staying warm. And just to let you know that these temperatures will be very warm. You'll have 50s, 60s, maybe even some 70s into areas like Virginia and North Carolina. Probably even some 80s across the deep south, including Florida. And I want to show you, I go back here, look how much cold air there's behind the system. So again, you're gonna, once the system passes, even if you're just gonna see rain, it's gonna get cold. And look, that snowy side pushes into southern Canada. Most southern Canadian cities, according to a track that the GFS shows, would get impacted by mainly rain. But again, all it takes is a few miles north or south to produce a difference. And notice that we see rain all across the eastern seaboard into Georgia. This is now Friday, and then it's done, right? And then it moves out. So I wasn't too specific with the timeline, right? And you may be kind of frustrated by that, why I didn't show you a bit slower. But the thing is, I just wanted to show you the system and its intensity, because I don't want to go into the details yet because it's still too far out. And I'll show you another model, and it'll probably justify as to why I'm so cautious with the details. They're in disagreement for a good amount of time. Now, assuming an explosive scenario like the GFS occurs, which again is just a possibility, it's not a certainty at all, it's not even a likelihood at this point, you can see there would be heavy snow, probably areas over a foot in some. Here it shows 28. I don't think there will be any 28-inch amounts with this system, but there could be up to a foot, if not more, of very heavy wet snow. Now, what's more, in my opinion, even impressive is the rainy side of this thing. A lot of precipitation, not just where the snow falls, but where just the rainfall is, and where that severe weather is, where you have several, clusters of thunderstorms passing over one area. You could definitely get some flash flooding events. Now, that is just one model. Let me show you some different ones, because this is where I guess the fun of forecasting comes through. This is a Canadian model. It's a different one. You can see it comes out twice a day. There are some fundamental differences in its mathematical equations, which I guess is how the models differ from each other and how they interpret the data. So notice that it all shows a basic same setup. We have that warm air from the Gulf. We have that high pressure, that low pressure. We have the same setup. There are just a few key differences. Notice that by Wednesday, it is already starting to occur at a very similar pace as the GFS, maybe a bit slower. You can see that cold front is a bit less developed, but do note that it is also a bit more progressive. It's quicker, right? We don't have these winds up here as, I guess, shoving it into the winds from the south. They're kind of more or less pushing it along rather than you're just squeezing it out. Now, do note that this thing would still be an impactful system for many. A lot of rain eventually developing. But look, the snow does stay reserved and only develops to a significant degree once that rainy side develops to a more significant degree. Again, even if this scenario like this were to occur, you can see that eventually the snowy side, how it began a lot more reserved than you were probably thinking that it's a lot less of a snowy scenario at first. And a lot of the areas that the GFS shows with heavy snow don't get snow at all from a Canadian scenario. But look, we have a lot of moisture. I mean, this is some brutal amounts of moisture. Probably some severe weather again, especially towards the deep south. Very heavy rain, but the snowy side starts kicking up. So Oklahoma City, you're under fire for this potentially. A lot of the areas in the Ohio Valley, cities like Paducah, maybe Indianapolis, if this is a bit further towards the north, Evansville, just a lot of areas, Lexington. And look, it's a more progressive system. The band of snow is a lot more stretched out, but it does affect arguably, more areas than the one that the GFS shows. And you can see Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, a lot of southern Canada, with a scenario like this, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec especially, you'd get impacted by the snow. And notice, though, by Friday, it is also out of here. So the general timing is relatively similar, which is interesting, as these models show completely two different systems. Total snowfall, you can see, is a bit less impressive. It isn't as powerful, I guess, but it's more widespread, so still a very impactful system. And the rainfall is what I think really gets to me right here across portions of Illinois, southern Illinois, but mainly Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, northern Mississippi, and Arkansas. That is where some flooding is definitely a potential. So you could see two different models, and you may think, okay, that's a lot of differences. Which one do I think is more accurate? Before I kind of share my specific opinions based off what the National Weather Service is showing and what some of the ensembles are showing, I want to show you the European first. And let me just show you its snowfall. Actually, no, because I will just show you it's how I showed you the other models. Let's go to the surface and precipitation. And there we go. I couldn't find it for a while. So again, basic same setup. We have that energy, or kind of like that little spark coming in from the north and west that's going to ignite once we have all these setups here. Which again, the setup is pretty similar to what the other models show. Extreme winds from the north, bringing cold air, converging air masses, again, with that one to the south. And we see that cold front develop. Notice, it's more like the GFS right away, the European scenario. However, there are some differences. It sags a bit further towards the south than what the GFS shows. The cold front is more powerful, more early on than what the Canadian shows. Very similar to the GFS, just again, further towards the south. And do note, I mean, you have rounds and rounds of storms, very heavy rain across the deep south, so that's pretty consistent with most models. But notice that the rain snow band doesn't go as far south as what the Canadian shows. It's more of the Canadian style, meaning it's more elongated, but it's a bit further towards the north. And notice that it affects southern Canada, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Ohio, Missouri, Oklahoma, maybe southeastern Kansas, and then that thing's out of here by, again, around Friday. So there are some differences, key differences that you probably saw. The moisture, I mean, the rainfall, I should say, is pretty consistent. It's heavy with what the other models show, but you can see it's a bit more scattered here as it takes its full development a bit further on. But really, the main difference is the snowfall. It's a lot weaker in terms of its amounts. Still a decent system if this or snowfall if this were to occur. A nasty 4 to 7 inches of very heavy wet snow, and into Canada there could be even more. But it's more in the Canadian model style. So at this point, what I want to say is that I do think that it's not going to be the system quite as powerful as what the GFS is showing in terms of the snowy side. And that's just because of the uncertainty that brought by the European and Canadian that both agree on the relative shape of it, which, they kind of make it a little less powerful. They don't make it as strong of a comma-shaped low pressure up here, that snowy side, which means more broad area of snow, but just lesser snow. And I do think that in terms of the track, it's probably going to be between the European and the Canadian GFS. I think the Canadian brings it too far to the south. And let me just show you what some of the ensembles show. So these are like priceless tools that we use at this time frame when the system is still several days out, because we could look at many models combined. I mean, this is 51 members, right? 51 European members that are taken and put all at once onto the map. And if you have an area like this, you could see that, oh, well, all 51 members show an average of 7 inches of snow. And that only occurs with such precision when you're literally 42 hours out. And the further the system is out, let me go back to yesterday at midnight and show you what the models thought of the system that I'm talking about. Okay, you could see that they showed that band of snow extending very far to the north and south. Now, again, that's not because the structure of the system was different. It's just that some painted the bullseye up here, some painted the bullseye down here, some in the middle, but you could see that's what it looked like. Now, with the most recent model run that I have to give to you, you can see it's narrowed, so that means that they're narrowing their confidence on the track. Again, you can see it's centering, say, northern Illinois, Indiana, Michigan with that snow. The exact snowfall amounts have still stayed decently, I guess, they haven't really increased, but again, that might be just because some are showing nothing and some are showing a bullseye, and it won't necessarily just be a perfect mix of the two. And once the actual system occurs, it will be either a strong or a weak one. So I would say, though, that you could see why I'm trying to point out that the GFS and European probably have a pretty good agreement on the track. So this is what the European ensemble showed. Notice that's where the heaviest snow is focused. Now let me show you the GFS. So if you thought there's only one group of ensembles, no, there's two, which also helps us out. It gives us more insight onto what the different scenarios and what the different ensembles are showing. So this is the GFS member ensemble from today at 6 o'clock in the morning. You could see it was, again, pretty wide, not a lot of confidence of where this exactly would occur. At noon today, this is what it showed. You could see that it started showing a purple band, meaning that there were many models agreeing that there will be heavy snow across that area. And the width of that snow, I guess, band also shrunk a bit. Now with the most latest GFS, you can see that blue, that's heavy snow, or that just general snow swath has shrunk even more. So again, the precision of where this will occur is starting to get, I guess, honed in, but also we have even greater intensity of that coloring. You can see maybe some light pinks appearing right here in Michigan. So I do think that in the center of the system, likely 6 to 12 inches is the amount of where kind of the heaviest snow will fall, maybe some amounts higher. But again, I do think that it's in this general vicinity. Not exactly like these models show, but the bullseye may be anywhere from basically, let me go back to where that blue ends and where it starts here. So this could still shift quite a bit more anywhere within that vicinity. But I don't think that will be trending way further south into Indianapolis or Missouri. Now, I may be wrong. I may be obviously wrong about that. But I just don't see that with the models. Usually, especially since we're not that far out, I don't think the models will be going out so volatile with such a short distance, especially since they haven't been as volatile with the system. So I do want to show you now a European model run that comes out at in the afternoon that goes out to only 90 hours. Usually it's pretty useless for long-term events because it only goes out to 90 hours. But this system is, again, kind of getting into the short term. So I'm kind of curious to see myself, where the European paints the heaviest snow. Okay, and this is what it shows. So obviously that's not the whole system. This is just through early Thursday morning. This system is just getting going. But you could see it's still a very similar location, and let's see how the system looks, the actual structure of it, and to see compared to what the latest. Yeah, so you could see it's a nasty cold front again. What I showed you, there was only the snowfall, but again, the system has a lot more going towards it, including the heavy rain. Okay, and look at that right there. I don't know if you're seeing that, guys, but if you have a trained eye or you just are good at noticing the small differences, notice what it does show is that it obviously shows a big system, a lot of snow, but this area right here is a bit more developed, something to what the GFS is a bit more showing, and it's starting to lift a bit towards the north, this area. So again, I think it's slightly different, and what I'm trying to say is I think the models, the European one, might be shifting a bit towards what the GFS is showing. Maybe not fully, at this intensity, but definitely something that is possible. Regardless, this is a long video, and again, if you just wanted your forecast, this was probably a bit too much and a bit too in detail, but this is what I do on here. I geek out about the weather, and I kind of go over different scenarios, different solutions, all the models, and to show you that a system, there's not a single model that doesn't show a system. It's just where, right? I mean, compare this to the Canadian. Still very impressive, massive systems with extremely rainy and severe weather potential. Again, they're just not in full agreement. So I have been talking about the snowy side of the system for a very good portion of the video, and I will be wrapping it up, but I do want to mention that the severe weather is harder to predict, but if you're to take a look at the Storm Prediction Center, which is what predicts severe weather, for Wednesday and Thursday, they already have a severe area warned. So that coloring right there, that yellow, that is already a slight risk, at least a slight, already out for Wednesday and Thursday across those areas. Oftentimes when the Storm Prediction Center issues such advisories this far out into Wednesday 3 to 4 days out, and they oftentimes basically this has converted into a moderate or at least an enhanced, sometimes even high on by the time the system actually rolls around. Again, I don't want to scare folks, but this is definitely a time that you'd want to start preparing, especially where those severe areas are issued. So yes, this is a nasty system, folks, and I hope that you guys are going to be prepared for this. And yeah, it's a long video, but I'll probably be making these videos every day of the week until the system passes. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe. See ya. Bye.